Hey everybody, I'm George Tamayo, and we have a very special guest with us today here at Racer HQ. CJ Olivares, who is the president of MAVTV, has joined us to make a very special announcement. CJ, let's hold off on the suspense. What's going on at MAVTV?
Well, we're very excited. Later this week, we're going to be launching our new subscription service. It's an app that's available on Apple, Android, all your connected devices. And on that app, you will be able to see what has been for years our live cable TV service. So if you're a cord cutter or a never quarter, this is your opportunity to catch all the great MAVTV coverage live, our documentary series, shows like Racers Roundtable, and so forth will all be available live on the app. The other component of this, really, and the most exciting part of this, is that this is going to be the new home for a bunch of live racing that has not been available on the network before, including things like DTM, Bathurst 12, Nürburgring, Spa, and the list goes on. All of the SRO racing we will have live on the app. So we're really excited about the opportunity to share that with our audience.
For those who don't know, you have had stints before at Fox TV. You were a co-founder of Fuel TV, now at MAV, various other places in between. Talk a little bit, if you will, about what's happening currently at MAVTV, sort of writ large, and does this new announcement that you're making today signal any kind of pivot in the programming? What about the things that people know MAVTV for presently? Is that stuff sticking around, or what's happening there?
Yeah, so I joined MAVTV a couple of years ago, really with the intention of driving change and transforming it from what had really been the home for a lot of grassroots regional racing into a more diverse motorsports offering that included more domestic and international racing, live highlights, also our build and enthusiast programming. We've got a ton of great build shows. We started into the live auctions last year. We have GAA Classic Car Auctions on, which are huge fan favorites for us. So it's more the evolution of what we're doing with the app, really, and the programming that we're driving to it, a lot more live international racing in particular, is really trying to, number one, kind of feed our fans and our audience more of what we know they already like. But it's also kind of meeting them where they want to consume. The media landscape's evolved pretty dramatically in the last 10 years. Cable TV is not in as many households as it used to be. Sure. Particularly younger audiences are driving to streaming platforms and apps. So we need to kind of serve them wherever they want to consume, as opposed to having to drive them to only one destination. And when we talk about our programming mix, it really is a reflection of trying to be the broader home, or I call it the campfire, around which anyone from motorsports can gather and find something cool and interesting.
You know, we don't often get the chance to talk to network executives like yourself. And I think that there's a lot of maybe mystery. There's a lot of action that happens behind the curtains that we as fans and consumers of TV don't get to really understand or know the inner workings of, right? So, you know, you've talked about the expansion of the programming, things like SRO, International, GT Series. I think you're going to be broadcasting Bathurst this year, which is amazing. Can you just shed a little bit of light for us in terms of, from your position, what is involved in that business? How do we get to the point where we can watch the kind of programming that we want to watch? And why is it that sometimes we want to watch some programming and it's not available?
That's the beautiful intersection of art and science in the media business. When you're talking about trying to target a specific audience like motorsports fans, you start with what are they already watching and what's available. So we look at the tier one motorsports, NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One, Supercross. They all have big broadcast deals, and NHRA has a deal with Fox, as an example. But there's a whole lot of other racing, even their development classes that are not on broadcast television. Until this year, Indy Next really hasn't been on broadcast television, and based on their new agreement with Fox, they're going to be on the air live with all the Indy Next races. So we start with, what does the audience want? Do they have access to it anywhere else? If they don't, then that creates an opportunity, unless the rights live with another provider, another streamer, et cetera. So we've got to kind of maintain and manage a database of what's going on, but we're also trying to keep our finger on the pulse and what's hot, what's rising. And then sometimes we deal directly with the series promoter. Sometimes we work through agents in terms of any live racing or race highlights. But for our documentary, our build shows, et cetera, sometimes we develop ideas, sometimes we're pitched ideas, and then we kind of go through a development process, particularly with those documentary and build shows, that we're kind of, it starts as one idea, and we really work in collaboration with the producer, whether it's an internal or an external producer, to refine the idea, harden it. Then we'll do a test episode. Everybody gets around the circle, throws their 2 cents in, and gives feedback in an effort to really make it something that we believe our audience is going to respond to.
Yep.
And hopefully watch.
You mentioned earlier about, for instance, Indy Next is getting now some coverage that they hadn't had previously. How do you explain it to people when they say, "Oh, I'm a big fan of insert whatever form of motorsports you want, and there's no TV coverage of that. Why not?" What's the answer to that most often?
It depends on the property, really. If somebody mentioned any one of those tier ones, I would say, well, all the tier ones are on. So what is it specifically? And then it's really a function probably of what's the potential audience for this look like? Are we talking hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of existing fans? Is there commercial support? Are there brands, endemic and non-endemic, that are supporting these race series? Because at the end of the day, as much as we love putting smiles on people's faces, this is a commercial enterprise. So we've got to figure out how to make money providing the content to people, and sometimes that comes in the form of advertising support. That's where the brands come in. Other times it's through subscriptions, like we're about to launch.
Right. So that opportunity for people to fund, if you will, their interests is available, and probably a model that's going to become more and more popular as time goes on. Would you say? Yeah,
I think there are already several examples of series that you wouldn't see otherwise on a broadcast service, even on a vertical sports channel. But there's a subscription. There's like small little subscription service for regional oval racing in the Southeast. And they've got 3,300 subscribers, and those people are super passionate about that, and they're willing to pay whatever $30 a month for that.
Yeah.
And so what we're endeavoring to do is to kind of mix the best of both. We've got an existing legacy business in cable TV that is still going to be around for a good long time, and there are plenty of people who still enjoy their linear television, but we're also mixing that now with this direct-to-consumer offering where, hey, if you're a fan of DTM, you're going to be able to come and watch DTM on the MAVTV Go app.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you have a fast channel as well.
And we have a fast channel, which is free to consumers effectively, and that MAVTV Select is the name of that here in the U.S. We have an international version and one Portuguese language version that's in Brazil. And that really is kind of the best of whatever you've seen on our pay TV channel, our cable channel. We kind of cull that into a greatest hits offering and then share that typically a few months after it's already aired on on the cable channel.
As a fan of motorsport yourself,
Yeah.
but also as a TV executive, can you shed a little bit of light, look into your crystal ball, and tell us where you see the future of motorsports programming heading, and what are maybe some things that you would love, not necessarily that you're going to make it happen, but that you would, as a fan, love to see more of?
There are a couple of things, some things that we're working on and some things that we're not working on. There's a fundamental dynamic in sports television, sports media, really. And it's the idea that nobody cares about the outcome of a competition unless they have a rooting interest. And rooting interest typically falls along a couple of lines. One, it's an individual athlete, a driver, a rider, etc., a team, or a location, nationalistic pride. And invariably, one of the things that we have seen here in the motorsports space in the last 5 years is the growth of Formula One in the United States. The drive to survive effect, right? There are a bunch of new fans that have come to Formula One via that lane. They didn't know. They got engaged with a personality via Drive to Survive. That dynamic is not new. It didn't start with Drive to Survive. It's been around for decades. I mean, this goes back to the 70s and ABC's coverage of the Olympics and getting up close and personal with athletes and so on. So one of the things that we're really excited about, and that I hope there is more of, not just by us, but by others in the space, is dimensionalizing the drivers. There's such a rich field of drivers across all different classes and types of racing. We've, budgets and time limit us in terms of doing everything that we want, but we've really leaned over the last 2 years into telling those stories about drivers. And I think the other piece of that is, zooming out and looking at the historical context of things. Races have been going on. We're heading into an amazing weekend in Daytona. The rich history of what has happened at Daytona over this weekend is pretty amazing. And there are so many amazing stories that you can tell that look back over time, not just about what's happening today, but again, just kind of providing a more rounded perspective on what fans may want and ways that they can engage in. And really, I look at my job every day as fan development,
right?
For race series. If we can get people excited about watching racing, then that's a huge win for me.
Right. Do you think, in terms of, you mentioned a little bit about personalizing and really making that connection, is there a technology or something on the horizon that's going to enable us to tell that story better? We hear a lot about things like multi-screen experiences, as an example. How do you see that as potentially changing the way people engage with media in general, motorsports specifically for our audience?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the two-screen experience is real. It's been real now for a long time, and the nuance of that is really, what are the two screens you're watching on? Because you could be watching on the big screen on the wall, like that one, and then have your phone or a tablet or a laptop with you, and then it's how can you connect those two experiences? Because a lot of times, particularly for newer fans, they want to dive deeper into, okay, well, give me more background on this person than I'm getting on the big screen. And the ability to connect those two experiences continues to evolve. And, Formula One for over a decade has had kind of pick your own driver experience, right? And you can see the telemetries that are coming off the car of the driver that you pick. I think there's going to be that level of personalization will expand over time, particularly as the Tier 1 race series, where the money is really, they continue to invest in enhancing the personal experience of the fan.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one of the big things. I think, the fact that we're going to be able to go live, from all these amazing endurance races that are coming up this season,
Right.
from DTM, from the GT World Challenge America, like all of these things, the fact that we can now watch, a race that's happening on the other side of the world live on our phones, like, to me, that's like flying,
Right.
we're flying through the air in this metal tube.
Yeah.
But it continues to evolve, and the fact that we can do that and the choice and control that we have over that experience, not just on a phone, but even on a smart TV. You don't need to have a cable plugged into your television, as long as it's got a Wi-Fi connection or a hardline connection to the internet. You can pretty much find whatever you want. And so that choice and control for the consumer, that's really how we're thinking, and what inspired us with the MAVTV Go app is we have to show up for them.
Right.
Right. We have to do our job, which is make it easy for them and not make it real complicated.
Right. Right. And I imagine you're seeing, sort of bring this back to full circle with these new events that you've got coming on the app and all of that. You feel confident that there's a real demand for this. You're feeling like there's opportunity.
Yeah, there are a lot of race series around the world, domestically, internationally, that people continue that have, they feature amazing racing.
Yeah.
Let's just start there, and then you've got drivers that some people already know who are going and racing in these other series, because Kyle Larson can drive anything.
Yeah.
Right. And he proved it over the weekend at the Chili Bowl again.
Yep.
Leveraging the fact that drivers of note are now, Kyle Busch went and raced and got to the C main, right, at the Chili Bowl. But drivers of note across the platform, K-Mags is going to be at Daytona this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Super exciting for K-Mag fans and Formula One fans. Now you've got this interesting crossover opportunity for people who may not, some of this new Formula One audience who know him but don't know Daytona.
Right.
Right. So maybe they'll watch Daytona for 4 or 6 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Well, it has been a pleasure having you. Remind us again, how do we get to sign up for this amazing new MAVTV Go app?
Right. MAVTVGo.com. It's that simple. Go to MAVTVGo.com. You can sign up for your subscription, get the cable service, the equivalent of the cable service, and all this bonus live from DTM to Bathurst to Nürburgring, Spa, and so on.
Right. Nice. All right. Thank you, CJ.
Thank
It's been
you.
a pleasure.
All right.